the advice I would give to somebody who wants to be in the acting world, honestly, most important thing that I've learned is take care of your mental health more than anything else, because that is what's going to help you get through the tough times when you're trying to pursue your dreams. Have a good support system, work on mindfulness, find outlets for that will help with anxiety, like things that I've struggled with, like anxiety, perfectionism. And don't let that little voice in your head tell you that you're not good enough, because it's a liar. And you just need to remember that that's just one part of you. And you just have to tell that part of you, you're not being helpful right now. I know you're trying to protect me, but you're not being helpful. You need to take a step back. Remember that every day we should be enjoying and appreciating and loving our life. And acting is one of the most incredible ways to be able to do that and harness our raw emotions into imagination and play. So I would say, if this is something you're passionate about, keep going. Understand that there's going to be bumps along the road, but be kind to yourself. And understand that we are our biggest supporters. And if we believe in ourselves and we have that support system, that is one of the keys to success, because half of the people that make it are the ones that just hold on to the monkey bars the longest and don't fall off. You know what I mean? Like, there are so many people that are like, oh, this is too hard. I've got to do this, and the other thing. And then there's the people that are like, okay, this is hard, but this is what I want. And let me figure out how to do this. And if you're struggling, ask for help. I could go on and on about this, but for me, it's always been about having a good headspace, because when you're in a good headspace, the rest will follow. Hi, I'm Laila Berzins. You might know me as the voice of Adepti Xiao in Genshin Impact, Mrs. Croaker in Disney's Amphibia, Maluki in Hunter x Hunter, Demeter and Persephone in Hades, Thor in Fire Emblem Heroes, and Drosna in Pokemon Ultimate Journeys. And you're listening to Hawaii's #1 podcast, the Kasanova Podcast.
Welcome everyone to another episode of Hawaii's #1 podcast, the Kasanova Podcast. I'm your host, Mekel Kasanova, and today we're joined by the one, the only, the phenomenal Laila Berzins. Laila, how are you doing today?
Oh, that's quite the introduction. Thank you so much.
I know
I'm doing all right.
That shit from
The
I'm
one,
nervous.
the only, the majestic, the magniferous, the splendiferous Laila. No, I'm good. I'm good. It's been a long week. Everybody's been Halloweening and going to Halloween parties, and the Dodgers won, and
Yes.
people are in good spirits overall, I think, right now, from that.
Yeah.
It's been a busy week, and just and enjoying as it slowly becomes fall. Yeah.
Yeah, true. So with that being said, I will go ahead and throw this out there for, Laila is a phenomenal voice actor and has done so much stuff, so many projects. You've been in God of War, you've been in The Last of Us, Hades, Genshin Impact, so many anime, so many video games, so many of the Mana series from Secret of Mana, Visions of Mana. You've done so much stuff.
You can never have enough Mana.
I know, right? But here's the thing, like, we can talk about all that and we might circle back around to it. But let's talk about the stuff that's really important. Like, what are you into? What do you like to do for fun? How many stuffed animals and stuff do you have and fidget spinners do you have?
Oh yeah, in my booth. So I have, okay, first of all, I want you to guess how many stuffed animals you think I have in my booth. Just based on before we started recording. I'll give you a hint. It's less than 20, but it's more than 10.
14.
What would you say, 14?
14.
Very, very close. 16.
Oh, damn it.
So many. They're my audience. They're all around me. In fact, there's you have to see this. So there is there's a Care Bear that I have, Funshine Bear, with a Doug Funny picture that he holds. And he looks directly at me when I'm recording. I mean, they're all my audience, but I've got treasure trolls in here. I've got and then I've also got some figurines of red foxes because they're my favorite animal. And Yeah, all sorts of stuff. I have and then a little bit of artwork. Like I got this from a fan. I don't know if you could see this. Yeah, there we go. It's adepti
Okay.
Xiao. Um but yeah, kind of all my stuff to keep it fun in here. But yeah, what I like to do for fun, well, first of all, I'm like part mermaid because I'm pretty much always in the pool. I'm swimming like every day. Well, I'm at a condo complex where the pool is heated for about 6 months of the year, so I'm in that pool every
Wow.
single day possible that I can when it's heated, and then
Hmm.
the rest of the time I don't know if I'm gonna actually bite the bullet and do like an indoor pool thing, but any chance I get, I'm swimming, first and foremost. I think as we discussed before we started recording, I'm a huge theater nerd. I grew up doing plays and a lot of musical theater, so I'm constantly going to plays and musicals.
Hmm.
Um, Phantom of the Opera is my one of my absolute favorites. I've seen it 3 times now, including once in London, which was surreal. So
Wow.
tons and tons of musicals. I love comedy shows, love movies, you know, I don't have as much time to play video games, but I love to play Genshin when I have a chance. And then it's
Hmm.
mainly like, you know, going to the LA stuff, going to all the networking events, the hangouts, you know, the dinners, the meet and greets, all that stuff, just anything where I can actually you know, meet up with friends. And then anything that's artsy fartsy, you know, like art like immersive art exhibits
Hmm.
and stuff like that. I'm not like a big like live concert person, just because I'm not crazy about like the huge crowds and the stadium stuff, but I do, you know, I've done stuff like Hollywood Bowl and things like that. So yeah,
Oh,
that's
wow.
and then traveling. Obviously, that's my biggest thing. I love traveling. Yeah.
Okay, so a couple things I want to hone in on there. So I know you said before we started that you've done stand-up comedy. How did you get into that? I definitely need to know this story.
I I got into that a few years actually, wow, it was like was it 2018? 2000 it was like it was a long while ago.
Hmm.
And the reason I got into it was because, one of my close friends, was taking, stand-up like, took a stand-up workshop, at Flappers Comedy in Burbank, and she told me about it, and she was like, "You should totally do this," and it scared the living bejesus out of me, and I think that's why I decided to do it because why not? Like, why not take the risk? And I only
Hmm.
I basically just sort of like I took a bunch of classes. At the end of those classes, we got to do like a 5-minute set. I had so much fun, it ended up being 7 minutes, but thank God it was a like a class so that I didn't get in trouble for going over in time. And then it was kind of a way to showcase some of my parody songs, you know, and my impressions and things like that. Because I'd make up songs, you know, like to the tune of Disney movies like ADD to the tune of Prince Ali from Aladdin or The Circle of Debt, to
Wow.
The Circle of Life, and then, High Girl to the tune of Starboy about when I was first came out to LA and I was a total pothead, like all those sorts of things. And it's great. So, it was like a good 2 plus years that I really went hardcore into stand up, and then I sort of
Hmm.
had like, you know, the reality of how much work it was, hit me, and also the late nights, which I was not crazy about, and just I love performing, but I did not like
Hmm.
the amount of having to constantly, keep, you know, recreating your, you know, new work and things like that. So I feel like now if I did something else on stage, it would be probably something more, like, musical improv or a "Whose Line Is It Anyway" type thing, something with
Hmm.
improv and performing where you don't have to worry about always landing jokes and things like that, even though my stuff was really kinda all over the place. But that's kinda how I got into it, and actually, I was going through a really, really tough time when I started doing stand-up. It got me through, like, a really bad breakup and a whole bunch of other just crazy stuff in my life, and the same way that acting is therapy, you know, stand-up was kind of therapy for
Hmm.
that time. It was like a way to get through that, and I'm so glad that I had that during that time because, whew, like, it would have been 10 times harder without having that outlet. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like a lot of people don't realize when it comes to doing like comedy or stand-up comedy, like how much work goes into it. Because and I feel like it's like with anything, same thing with like voice acting. Like I
Yeah.
recently have gotten into voice acting. Like a lot of my voice acting friends, like I want to say Mark Whitten was like, Mekel, when are you gonna stop interviewing people and start doing it yourself? And I'm like,
Yeah.
no. But like a lot of people assume it's so
Mhm.
easy to do this stuff, and it's like, no,
Yeah.
there's a lot that goes into it. It's if it
Yeah.
was so easy that everyone could do it, or I mean, everyone would be doing it, but no, it's
Sure,
not.
sure.
So how would you say like coming up with material
Mhm.
for you, was it more so on the spot, or you got time to prep
No.
for it?
Oh god, no. No, 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 no. Everything had to be I knew I had to know exactly how many minutes I had. I had to know exactly and then I had to prep every single bit of my routine so I knew how long everything was. I did not do anything on the fly when I was, I had too much
Hmm.
anxiety for that. And, some people have a general idea of what they're going to do and then they just kind of figure out, okay, well, how much time do I have? Okay, how much time do I have left? But when I first started, I had, it was like, I can do this, but I need to make sure that I fit it in that time. So I practiced, I worked on different routines. So it was like a combination of like parody songs, voiceover impressions, talking about being the daughter of two psychologists, all sorts of like
Hmm.
things like talking about my inner critic, and giving her a voice and like all the, just all the stuff that we deal with. And still kind of figuring out where, just telling stories, talking about my life, so that's kind of how that happened. But it was a fun, like I said, it was a fun outlet to make some of my parody songs.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, being the daughter of two psychologists.
Yes.
Okay, so do you psychoanalyze everyone you come across, or like
It
how do you deal with that?
I I'm painfully self-aware, so I know it's not that I'm psychoanalyzing. I don't know if I'm say that I'm very in tune with the way that people are with people's energy and
Hmm.
nonverbal cues. And I mean I've always been extremely hypersensitive in general and like, um very empathic just because my family is like that and we've kind of just have like big hearts like are just but I would say I'm definitely there are times when I am definitely overanalyzing and,
Hmm.
uh, and wondering, where certain things come from. I mean, my mom definitely would ask us questions like, uh, I would discuss things with my family in ways that you couldn't necessarily do with the typical family, uh, about our relationships with different family members and, why do you think I'm like this? Because it because of this in my childhood or was because of so it it sounds like, there were certain aspects of it that were, definitely, uh, challenging because but in the other sense, it's made me so, um, it's made me very lucky to have parents that I could talk to about almost anything,
Hmm.
with so much understanding, and so that's been a real gift, and I think it's helped me to understand myself better,
Hmm.
and hopefully help other people. I'm definitely one of those people that, like, when other people are going through something, I wanna listen and help and offer insights, um I don't wanna say advice because I don't wanna, like, just say, "Hey, you should do this," but, like, for the maybe, like, "This is what worked for me," or,
Hmm.
it's also helped me get through some really tough times, just kind of understanding the way my mind works or other people's minds work, in some general sense of the word. And, I'm definitely interested in stuff like that, but yeah, most people in my family, for the most p are in, like, um much more like my parents are psychologists. I've got a lot of social workers in the family, like people that like the office jobs, and then there's a couple of us that are in the very artsy, uh, you know, worlds. Yeah.
Okay. So given that, how did
Mhm.
you end up going into like theater and getting into acting and
Oh,
voice acting?
I was acting since I was, like, 6 years old. Like, I
Okay.
was in school plays, like, anytime they were like, "Who wants to be the to try out for the lead?" I was like, "Me, me!" Like, always wanted to be always singing, always performing. I used to dance and sing and perform in my, parents' living room, you know? Um, and, uh and then, so that was just sort of like as soon as I, got into elementary school and we got into theater and or we would do school plays, I was like, "Oh, this is I love this, like, I wanna do more of this," and then I was in chorus, different choruses and got to do, different performances and travel a little bit, and that was super cool, so, yeah, no, I've always been a entertainer at heart. I've always been an entertainer at heart, what can I say? I like to zazz the crowd. But no, it was great too because, I was one of those kids that had trouble regulating my own emotions. I was very, like, all over the place, and I feel like
Hmm.
acting and performing and singing really centered me, and again, when I say acting is therapy, it's like, "Oh, I can channel these emotions and thoughts into a character, or I can do," and that was really, really, really helpful for me.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Like with acting, like it really is therapeutic. And
Yeah,
like you, like when I was younger, I was like always all over the place
all
emotionally,
over.
and it didn't help. Like in my case, I come from a very musically gifted family, and
Mm.
I'm the runt that
Oh,
doesn't have that gift. So like I always had like all my siblings, they could sing, they could dance, they could act, they could play any instrument, and
oh
they could
boy,
read
so there's a
music.
lot that's a lot of pressure. Yeah,
It is, and I'm the youngest
yeah,
of like
yeah.
that I okay, and counting because my dad like he loves spreading his love around. So I keep finding new siblings every time I turn around. I was like, oh hey,
That's a
like
great way of putting it.
like true story. So like in
Like, "He's
college,
got a lot of love, he's
right. So
all over
so
the place." Oh my
so
god.
like when I was in college, my best friend in college, her name is Chanel. And come to
Mhm,
find out, like we were best friends for like all 4 years, and then one year on her birthday, her dad shows up, and I'm
mhm.
like, Dad, what are you doing here? He's like, oh, um, and then and she comes out, she's like, oh, Dad, what's going on? I was like, wait, that like the Spider-Man meme where everyone's pointing at each other. Come to
Yep,
find out,
yep.
that's my older half sister, and then I had that happen again
Wow,
when I was working for
wow.
Microsoft. And I was a Microsoft specialist that would go to different stores to train people. And my partner, um, like when I say partner, like the guy I was working with, like
Mhm, mhm.
we went all over the place, and we became best friends too. That's my second best friend, and come to find out, that's my other older half brother from the same dad. And I'm just like, anytime
Wow.
I meet somebody new, I'm like, what's your dad's name?
Like, "Are
Is
you my
it
brother?"
so yeah, even with them, they're musically gifted. Like for me,
Yeah.
I learned I had to teach myself how to sing. I'm not the greatest at
Mm.
it. I had to teach myself how to play guitar and bass and drums and
Oh,
everything like that.
wow.
I can't read it. It's just because I was trying to compete, and then, like I guess because I felt that I'm not as good as them. I had this complex inferiority
Mm.
complex. So
Mhm.
like when I got into theater, like in high school and well, middle school and high school, and then also in college, I'm just like,
Yeah.
this is where I can just express myself. And it literally was therapy, channeling
Yeah, yeah.
everything I had into these characters. It didn't matter if it was comedy, didn't matter if it was, more serious stuff like Waiting for Godot. Well, that was one of my favorites, Waiting for Godot.
Ooh, that's a good one.
But like, yeah, like that's like when you said that was therapy, I'm like, yes, it so
Yeah.
is.
Ain't it the truth?
It
Ain't it the
is.
truth?
So considering that, like what has been some of your favorite plays and stage plays to do throughout your time in theater?
Oh, So, the Music Man, I was, Mrs. Peru. I was the
Okay.
Irish mother of Marion Peru. That was super fun. But I was so into that musical that I could have been the understudy for Harold Hill. Like, I remembered every
Wow.
I just sat there absorbing all the songs, like, this was back in, my joke is that, I used to be able to memorize plays where I never left the stage. Like, I'm just talking like
Hmm.
800, like, never left the stage, and now and now I'm so spoiled by voiceover, I'm like, if I have to memorize something that's like a minute long, I'm like, "How many days do I have?" You know? So yes, The Music Man, Fiddler on the Roof. I did it in both high school and college. So
Hmm.
I've played both Grandma Seidel and Yenta, and obviously Yenta was the best. Um, so much fun. I've been in some very obscure plays that not a lot of people may have heard of. One was called The Life and Death of Almost Everybody. Yeah, of Almost Everybody, and it's basic. I believe it's by a British playwright, but it's basically about a stage sweeper that creates an Adam and Eve, and then these
Hmm.
Adam and Eve go to like get married, and then there's an Aunt Harriet in their wedding because there's always an Aunt Harriet, and the Aunt Harriet basically tries to overthrow the entire um uh what's the word I'm looking for? The entire world that I've built.
Hmm.
Um, and it has all these, social and political undertones in it. It was a very verbose highbrow play that somehow that was the one where I never left the stage, and it was just monologue after monologue. So that there was a really fun one called Any Body for Tea, where I played
Hmm.
Hildegard Hodge, an old spinster woman who kept poisoning it was the tea, kind of like arsenic and old lace. There was this like hot homicide detective that we all wanted to like, hang out with. So we just kept on having tea parties, and I just kept on dropping in arsenic. That was a super, super fun one. The only thing I remember from that is the very last part of the play when they were like, "Was it really you, Hildegard?" And I was like, "It was really me." And just, it was so dumb. Um, and then, oh my gosh, tons of stuff as a kid when those are the main ones that I remember off the top of my head. I also did some really fun kind of you know created ones, like I went to Deerfield Academy Summer Arts Camp in
Hmm.
Massachusetts, where basically we would just go and do artsy stuff all day. So we made a play, like a mini play called Alice in TV Land. So it was like Alice in
Okay.
Wonderland, but instead of Wonderland, she's just changing channels. So I was the
Hmm.
Queen of Hearts who made Pop-Tarts, and then I was the Jabberwocky, but instead of coming out as like a scary monster, I was dressed in a Barney costume. So it was really, really fun kind of stuff. So yeah, all that kind of stuff. That's some of the ones I remember. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So I'm gonna make an assumption. You're from the East Coast, right?
Oh yeah, from Connecticut originally. Yeah.
Okay. How did you end up in California?
So I have back in I started studying voiceover in December of 2008. I can't believe it's
Okay.
been that long. And my
It feels like
mentor
yesterday, doesn't it?
I know, right? My mentor, God. Oh, cherish your youth. Um, I had an incredible mentor, Roy Yokelson of Antland Productions, who
Hmm.
helped me with some of my first demos, including my animation demo. And after I worked on my animation demo with him, he sent it to one of his contacts over at Disney, who then sent it to another contact, who then said, "Hey, can she come out for a general audition?" Which basically back in the day was you would go into a studio. In addition to whatever you had on your demo, they would give you a bunch of scripts and just throw a bunch of stuff at you, and you would just record, and they would basically see what you could do and create another
Hmm.
file from that general audition. So this was several years later, about 5 years later in 2013. I said, "Yeah." I said, "Yeah." I said, that would be unbelievable. So I came out to LA in March of 2013 for 1 week. I had scheduled a general at Disney. I got one at Nickelodeon. I scheduled lunch meetings with voice actors like
Wow.
Dave Fenoy. I went to a women in animation event, networking event, and ended up meeting somebody who helped me find my first home. Like, it was very serendipitous.
Wow.
And then uh the Disney audition went well. They sent that the person who was running it sent it over to one of the top agencies in LA, and they said, "Well, we can start you on trial. We can't promise anything, but we can start you, sending you opportunities if you want to get out here." And I said, "Give me a month." So I moved everything, like, just completely uprooted my life and moved to LA, and that was in May of 2013, and that's how everything started, and, drove for Uber and Lyft most weekends, was pet sitting, whatever I could to pay the bills in between. Got help from my family, thank God, because the first couple of years in LA, as anybody will tell you, is very rough, and I was able to, find housing that worked out well with some good folks that also worked in entertainment, and save up a little money that way, and went from having maybe one or two agents to having like eight agents and auditioning all the time, and finally getting to the point where I could take the Uber and Lyft sticker off my car and just fully work in voiceover. That's the very shortened version, not to, other than I was going to workshops constantly, casting events constantly, networking events, taking classes, working with coaches,
Hmm.
had to, making sure that I was up on my all the things I needed for my audio editing. So luckily, like when the pandemic happened, I already had been self-engineering myself for many years. So it was like, luckily I didn't have to change anything. But yeah, it's been a very up and down journey. But once it got to the point where like, oh my gosh, I'm actually able to make a living from this, it was like, okay, this is happening. And then people started to remember who I was and started to, call me back for things, and it just sort of snowballed. And it definitely takes time, and it
Hmm.
definitely took a lot of getting over perfectionism and anxiety and that inner critic, um, and also just learning how to be like, "No, no, I don't need to do a million takes. Do 2 to 3 takes." I work with coaches pretty regularly now so that I don't have to get in my head about what's good or not. That way I
Hmm.
just can focus on the acting, and just, like, figuring out, you know, what works for me, what I need in my schedule so that I am in a good place to perform the best and hopefully book as much as possible. That's how I
Okay.
ended up in LA, and now it's been what, almost 11 years? Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. How much of a culture shock was it going from Connecticut to LA?
Well, I mean, it's funny, when I came out here the first week, I felt like I was already home, even though it was like a
Okay.
big city feeling in a lot of areas. There was something about it that just felt like, yeah, this is where I need to be.
Hmm.
That being said, especially as an Uber driver, um, getting used to the LA traffic, getting used to um
That
how
traffic
would
is
I put this?
brutal.
The traffic, learning that, there's an expression, I forget what they call it, what they used to call it, but it was something about how there were certain people in LA that could be very flaky, or frosted flakes or whatever, but yeah, you on the East Coast, when you if you set up an event and people RSVP, you assume they're going to show up. But in
Hmm.
LA, I discovered, oh, if this many people RSVP'd, about a third to a half are gonna show up and things like that. Other than that, it was mainly just, it wasn't like I was in downtown LA with people that were like, you know, anything stereotypical of what you see about LA life. I mean, most
Hmm.
of the people I saw were just all following their dreams and working their butts off to get to where they needed to be. So it wasn't too much of a culture shock other than just like the traffic, the city life, just the difference in terms of the amount of people going from a small town in Connecticut to the LA area is definitely a big shift. But yeah, I think it was where I was meant to be. Yeah.
Yeah, the adjusting to that LA traffic is brutal.
Oh
I
yeah.
used to
Get a lot of
think
phone calls. Call everybody in my family when I'm in traffic.
I used to
My
think
dad's
Hawaii
joke.
driver. Oh,
Oh, I'm
go
sorry,
ahead.
sorry. I was just
No,
gonna
no,
say
no.
my
Go ahead.
dad's joke is every time I call him, he's like, "Where are you driving to now?" Like, oh, that's an ADD thing. It's like I'm only calling you if I'm driving or doing laundry. I have to be multitasking apparently. Yep.
Oh yeah, like I used to think Hawaii drivers were horrible. Originally
Yeah.
I'm from Samoa originally, and I used to think Samoan drivers were really bad. But then when
Yeah.
I went to LA, I want to say for E3, and then that's when I finally got to
Oh,
meet
okay.
all my was it E3 2019, the last
Nice.
actual in person one. But I got to go there, and I got to finally meet up with a lot of my voice actor friends, and I'm just like they're like, "Hey, where are you staying?" I'm like, "Oh, my hotel is right here by the airport." And they're like, "Wait, aren't you going to the convention center?" I'm like, "Yeah, but it says it's only going to take me like 5-10 minutes to get there." And they're like,
You're like, give yourself a lot longer."
"Yeah, that was interesting." I'm just like, "Why is it taking
Yeah.
almost 2 hours to get there from the airport?" Yeah,
Yeah. Oh, I'll also say the difference in the prices, that definitely the price for gas, the taxes, all the cost of living out here. Oh my gosh, that's a trade-off. That's definitely a trade-off, you know.
goodness, like,
That's why I live in
yeah.
Santa Clarita and not like in closer areas because it's not affordable. It's
Oh my
uh,
goodness. So how was adjusting to that, the cost of living? Was that rough? Like a super rough transition, or how would you say it was?
well, I mean, I think in general because I had only been about 2 years after graduating college and then had all this stuff happening to me. In general, it was just like I just had to really hustle to pay my
Hmm.
bills. And but at the time I was still uh staying in I still had, I was with roommates. I was able to get affordable rent. So that wasn't as bad. It was just like all the other expenses that I had to keep on thinking about, all the educational expenses, the workshops, the, groceries, the bills, it's a lot.
Yeah.
So it definitely was a challenge, especially when you're used to just having a simpler life, and then you go into this life where you have to constantly be you gotta be out there, you gotta be doing stuff, you gotta be seeing the people, and there's those 2 sides of your brain, and I still fight with them daily. The side that just wants to bundle up under 4 blankets and do nothing, and the side that's like, "You gotta go, you gotta make an
Yeah.
appearance. People gotta know who you are," and it's like and so it's like I'm talking to that part of myself. I'm like, all right, you do this, and then you'll get a reward of something this weekend. We'll watch your favorite movie or do something, or figure something out, some sort of recess in my brain so that I can keep doing those things. Sometimes it's tough, it's tough. You just, motivation to do all those things is tough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So would you say with how much you're constantly working, doing
Mhm.
auditions and dubbing and everything else, how much time do you have for you on
I
a
mean
average per week?
I mean, I would say that I break up my schedule pretty well,
Mhm.
in terms of, like, where things are, like, they're kind of blocked in little chunks. So
Mhm.
I'll have maybe, uh, to give, like, an example of what an average day might be that I don't have to go to, like, appointments or other things, other errands and stuff. I might be get I'll probably be in the booth at 7 or 8 in the morning doing, at least an hour of auditions to get stuff done for the first main deadline of the day, then go and work out, come back, run an errand. I might have a session in the afternoon, take a break, and then I'll probably do at least another hour of auditions in the afternoon to prep
Mhm.
for, so on a given day, I could be in the booth anywhere from 2 to 4 hours on average, but normally it's not too bad because I try to just be as efficient as possible, and chunk it out. In terms of, like, times when I just wanna be kind of doing nothing. I feel like I'm always catching up to a to-do list that is just never ending. So it's like even on Saturday mornings when I should be sleeping in, I'm always up early doing auditions, catching up on all those emails and other things that scheduling things that I couldn't get done during the week because it just not enough time.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of appointments and other things that I do during the week as well, and events, and so it is a challenge, but I definitely feel like I have more freedom over my time because I create my own schedule and, I have the final say in it. So, um, there's definitely, pros and cons. But yeah,
Hmm.
I have a kind of a general way that I portion out my days, and it tends to work pretty well for the most part.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So when it comes to traveling, like I
Mhm.
know you do conventions and everything like that. How draining on average is it for you? Like 'cause I know like at conventions, you literally got to be there for like 8 or more hours and always like smiling and happy and everything. And not saying like people have to fake it, but
Yeah.
like I've been to a lot of conventions doing media and a lot of my voice actor friends. I'm looking over and I'm like, "Are you okay?" I'll get in line and be like, "Are you okay?" Like, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
It's definitely draining, 100% draining, but it's also the most, it's like you're basically running on adrenaline the whole
Hmm.
weekend that you're there, and that's why by Sunday, everybody's completely crashed because the adrenaline has hit its limit, and you're just like, you just don't have anything left. So, I mean, I definitely say it is challenging to keep at times to keep up my energy, but I always try to, do whatever I can to I try to make sure I get enough sleep, get a good workout before I'm sitting the whole day, and just have the right foods, the right things, so that I can stay as alert as possible. And then when we get breaks, I try to at least like rest my eyes, do whatever I can. Sometimes they've got a couch where I can just kind of plop for a few minutes, and around lunchtime is the challenge. But the days just fly by because
Yeah,
they're so busy. So, yeah, but no, it definitely is like, as soon as I get done, I usually just plop. I just y I have to take a nap, but it's the most wonderful it's the best experience in the world is to be a part of these conventions. It's just like, you know, so I'll take the exhaustion any day for the experience.
okay.
The fans
So
are the best.
yeah, so speaking of that, like, what is it like? Like, if we were to compare like your first experience at a convention to, one of your most recent ones, like, how would you
Mhm.
say like the fan interaction is like, or like, do you often get fans that? 'Cause like I'm not trying to assume or generalize, but I've seen it happen a lot where a lot of fans think that the voice actor knows everything about the character that they're portraying or thinks that they are the character. Like there's sometimes when I'm standing there and I'm looking, I'm like, I look at my friends, I'm like, okay.
No, I mean, I
Um,
feel like for the most part, people will ask me questions sometimes about parts of the game or in panels, and I'm just honest with them. Like I'll tell them either I know it or I don't, or I'll ask
mhm,
questions because like I, you know, um, especially with Genshin, it's like I've played Genshin. I'm only AR level 40, and now I have to have somebody come and help me ascend all my characters because they're too weak to fight in that world. Um, but there's a lot of questions that do kind of go over my head unless somebody gives me a kind of elaboration on it. And also,
mhm,
I feel like it's one of those games that if you're not playing all the time, you're gonna fall behind on the lore and not know what people are talking about. So for the stuff that I've been in and things like that, I can answer those questions. And then yeah, if I don't know the answers, I just say that. I haven't felt really that. I mean, I definitely have people just call me by my character's name or really talk to me, like, about specific things, but I think, for the most part, I think people understand that these are the characters that I voice and this is what I know or don't know, and, that's all I can do And then if they know, if they want to tell me about something that they love about my character or characters or projects that I don't know, I'm always, happy to learn more about them because, you know, it's so much. There's so much stuff. So much
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
Okay. What would you say was one of your favorite roles to do of everything that you've done? You've done so
Uh,
many, like your resume of work is just like wow. But what has been your personal favorite?
Mrs. Croaker and Disney's Amphibia, just because it was my first Disney cartoon, and I got to play a sassy old lady frog, and it was so much fun. That was one of my favorites. Obviously getting to be Xiao in Genshin Impact was life-changing in terms of what it's
Hmm.
done for my career and just everything else. Being in Batman: The Long Halloween Part 2 as Sophia Falcone, getting to play like this sympathetic villain was really like uh, goosebump level, like, whoa, this is such a blessing to be a part of kind of moment.
Hmm.
And um so I think, though, I mean, there's so many things that I've loved being a part of, but that's those are some of my favorites.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know when when I talked to some of my other friends that are voicing characters in Genshin Impact, like the most
Mhm.
common thing that I hear from, from Griffin to many others is like, I never thought it was going to blow up the way it did.
Never in a million years. I just thought, because you do so many games and you just think they're like, "Oh, this is gonna be really big." I'm like, "Okay, cool, cool," and I didn't think I was gonna be able to, like, start going to conventions and that, like, people are gonna, like, recognize anything about it. It was mind-blowing. I was like, "This
Hmm.
game is so popular," like, so it yeah, I think the majority of the cast were kind of like, "Wow," when they found out what this game really became. And especially during the pandemic, when people
Yeah.
were really playing it all the time, and I think I wasn't on TikTok at all, and then, and my friend Christy, who voices, Chi-Chi in Genshin, she was like, "You should post all the Genshin fans on TikTok," and I posted, like, one little video, with a clip of Xiao, and it said, like, then it just said, "Hi, I'm the voice actor for Xiao, say hi," and then there was, like, 350,000 views, and I'm like, "What?" Like, so the fandom, and the just the diehard fandom and the love from the community is something I never imagined in all my wildest dreams, like, honestly. Um, yeah, that kinda blew my mind. It Yeah, and it's still expanding, I
Yeah.
feel like this is the game that never ends, literally.
Yeah,
Lumine and Ether are never gonna find each other. They're never gonna find each other. They're just gonna keep searching for years and years and years. Like, wait, wasn't that the whole purpose of the game? Yes, but you never never get to that point because you got a million side quests and Archon quests and world quests and oh my god. Oh, but it's great. See, they got the whole thing planned out. Yep.
like
Yep,
I
yep,
know
yep.
I got the opportunity to be one of the early testers when it was in beta, and I remember
Oh, wow.
back then when like news of the game coming out, and I remember you had so many outlets and YouTubers saying, "Oh, this is just a Zelda Breath of the Wild clone." They were saying that for
Yeah.
so long, and now these same people are like praising the game, and part of myself kicks myself for like not being one people to make a ton of content around it because I've seen so many
Mhm.
creators just like now they're buying all this other stuff, and I'm not that I'm doing poorly, but it's just like
Yeah.
when you see those opportunities, like, damn, I should have hopped on that. you know, that's why I'm like, oh, okay. And then I feel like a lot of people thought Zenless Zone Zero, I guess that's the other one that they made, and I thought that well, no, it was another company. Was it? No, that was Hoyo first, I think. A
I
lot
haven't
of
heard of
people
that
thought
one.
that was going to be I think a lot of people thought that was going to be another big one, but I'm like, no, right now it's Genshin Impact and Honkai Star Rail. Those are
Honkai,
like
yep.
the two massive ones, and I feel like everything else is pretty. I mean, we see it when there's something popular, everything else is going to try and incorporate something from it. But it's like if you're not the
Mhm.
original, you're not getting that same spotlight and shine. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, this is crazy. Speaking of which, so with Hunter x Hunter,
Mhm.
because you played Maluki Zoldyck in that, um, that the
Oh,
manga
that
is
was
starting
also one
back
of my
up, or
favorites.
right? So like that, since the manga has started back up again, and I guess has gotten so far to a point. Do you think that there would be an opportunity for that to resume animation, and would you like to go back to reprise your role?
Oh my gosh. I would love to, but I have no idea if that's ever gonna happen. If it does, that would be incredible. I jump on it in a heartbeat. Hey, any any voiceover work, that is you know, pays industry standard rates and is a something that I am interested in, I'm always jumping on. Um, but yeah, 100% in a heart rate. In a heart rate? I
Okay.
just said in a heart rate, in a heartbeat. There we go. It's Friday. It's Friday. I would do it in a
It-
heart rate. What's my heart rate? Okay, we're getting in the zone. Yeah. But yeah, I love Hunter x Hunter. Being a part of it. So yeah. I mean, any of the animes that I've been a part of, I would love to if they continued, but or new ones, Anime's super fun.
okay.
Super fun.
It- okay. Winding down to the last couple questions to be
Mhm.
completely respectful of your time. Would you say, when it comes to like, and I don't, you don't have to give any specifics or anything like that, but with um the amount of strikes that have been going on, like, is it a matter of like pay? Is there discrepancies with that? Like, we don't have to get into any details or anything like that, but um, is there an industry standard, or is that something that's being fought for right now?
No, there is an industry standard in terms of rates. I'm not an expert on the strike, but the main thing is that uh, folks uh, need to. I'm going to mess this up explaining it. AI protections are the biggest thing.
Hmm.
A lot of companies not wanting to sign AI writers that protect the voice talent from having their voice used in any way, shape, or form without their consent. And the
Hmm.
other thing is signing the other big reason for the strike is signing tiered budget agreements or interim agreements that basically are making games that are non-union union again for the sake of protecting the talent and because of the amount of work that we're doing. I mean, video games in general, we're getting a very tiny percentage of the pie, whereas the company is making so much
Yeah.
money. We're getting like a flat day rate and that's it. And some companies we're not even getting that proper rate, or we're not protected by the union because there's there's more non-union than union. There's so much more to it than that I'm not the best at explaining, but those are the main things is in regards to protection and it just fair rates, fair everything. I literally would have to Google it to explain it better, which I encourage folks to do because I'm just terrible at explaining the strike. Um, but it's going to make a huge difference if we're able to, stand together on this.
Okay. As far as like, and I know this has been like a very heated topic, but like
Mhm.
AI, I mean, we've seen AI
Yeah.
just explode over the last 3 to 4 years. And it's
Yep.
to a point that, I have a lot of concerns about it. Like, there needs to be regulations on it because, yeah, it's impacting the voiceover industry. It's also impacting content creator sphere. A lot of people don't realize that a lot of the stuff that people are looking at, that's AI, and unless you look
Oh
very,
yeah.
very closely, you won't
It's
know.
terrifying for the voiceover world. I just went on the website, by the way, for on the strike just to give I just want to read this one paragraph that explains it
Okay.
better than I can. SAG-AFTRA members went on strike against game employers on July 26th. The strike was called after more than 18 months of negotiations with some of the largest video game companies ended without a deal. The employers rebuffed our proposals for consent, compensation, and transparency around the use of AI, and instead have countered with loophole-filled language that negates any protections they claim to offer. Employers understand that our performances have value, otherwise they wouldn't be negotiating with us. It's only fair that members be protected and paid for the value their performances create. So that's essentially more than anything, it's about
Okay.
AI protections, because we could still do a performance, and then they could take what we've recorded, and if they use AI, they can get another session out of us without paying us, for example. They can do pickup, normally we get pickup sessions and we get paid an additional rate for that pickup session. But if they don't have AI protections in their agreements, they can just take our one session, replicate our voice, and do whatever they want with it. There we go. There's my brain coming back on a Friday. So that's one of the biggest components of it, is that, yeah, and that's the thing right now, is that there are so many projects that we're in right now that do not have those protections. A lot of companies now are starting to get on board with signing AI riders, signing AI protective agreements, but it is a very scary time. I don't think AI has the level of emotion needed for certain projects. I think it's for projects that require less emotion, that can be more automated. They're more in danger for sure. But I also think take that with a grain of salt, because there are certain projects that, I mean, for example, I don't think anybody's gonna go to see a cartoon or a movie that's voiced by an AI version of a person that they used to watch. Like, I feel like they're gonna wanna watch the actual person. They're gonna have the actual
Yeah.
person there. But it's a very scary time right now in the business. We don't know exactly what's gonna happen. It's definitely affected already several other industries. Um, so we're just trying to do as much as we can right now to keep our business afloat, and keep it and keep the actors protected, you know.
Okay. So, in your opinion, 10 years from now, where do you see AI and what
Oh
its
god.
impact? I mean, we're already at a crazy point, just like what, 4 years into it?
I know. I honestly, I feel like it's definitely gonna take over a lot more jobs.
Yeah.
It's gonna a lot of jobs that used to be, that reliant on people, it's just gonna go out the door. I don't know exactly how many jobs or what sectors. Um, and I don't know how it's going to affect the entertainment industry that far down.
Hmm.
Um, but it, I'm that's why we're, like I said, trying to get things in place now before it gets that bad.
Yeah.
I honestly have no idea. I hope the robots don't take over. I hope that, we still have a job force. I hope that, we're able to I I I I worry about us being able to balance, um and not abuse AI,
Yeah.
and just, and that's what's so terrifying about it, because once people realize they can cut corners, that can go to a lot of
Yeah.
sectors, a lot of different jobs, a lot of different uh yeah, I lost my train of thought, but yeah, that's I don't know. I honestly, your guess is as good as mine. I just I hope it's not as bad as I am scared. Just scared. For sure everybody's scared right now.
And
Um
it's crazy how like it's really pushed so heavily within everything. I mean, our phones are pushing it, search engines, social media platforms,
mhm. And that's
everything is,
terrifying too, because like writing and stuff, like you don't even know if it's somebody's
yeah,
saying is done by them or chat GPT. Like
right?
it's
Can you,
it's a
can you imagine
totally different
college
world.
professors now?
They don't even, I mean, I don't even know what they do. I can't even imagine that you can just plug something in. I mean, I think they have ways of determining it now, but like the shortcuts that's why there's this good and there's bad,
Yeah.
because there should be a limit. There should be a limit. Technology. Technology. It is
Uh,
both the most important thing in our world and the bane of our existence,
yeah.
Yeah.
All right, winding down to the last question I have for you. Let's shifting gears to a more positive topic. Where is yeah? Because I mean, I could go down the rabbit hole of AI. It's such, especially I work with a lot of the tech companies and reviewing their stuff, and I
Oh
do a lot
boy,
of
yeah.
beta testing and consultation.
Whew.
I've seen things that I can't even talk about, and I'm just like, we've seen that movie. We know how that plays out. Why are we pushing? Anyway, that's a whole nother thing.
Wow.
Anyways,
Yeah, yeah.
so um, shifting topics. What are some of your favorite places to travel to?
Oh my gosh. Well, I was just in Australia and New Zealand, and New Zealand is my probably one of my favorite places on earth. And now Australia is pretty much up there as well. Um, I go to Cape Cod, Massachusetts with my mom almost every summer, just to go to the beach and enjoy the lobster rolls and all the East Coast fun. I mean, internationally, I still have a huge list of places I want to go. But what else are places I've really enjoyed? Um, China was amazing. Uh, I love the UK, Ireland, and Scotland. Oh God, Scotland. Um, so many. But yeah. But I'd have to say that you know, anything like that, or any place that just it has a beach scene, Dominican Republic was pretty sweet too. But yeah, New Zealand, and now Australia will have a very, very big place in my heart.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when will we see you out here in Hawaii? Because I'm
Oh,
pushing
yeah,
very
Hawaii! I went to Hawaii. I went to, KawaiiCon. I loved it.
hard.
So I've already been
Nice.
out I've already been out there, which means I don't know if I'll ever get back there, and I don't know if I'll ever get to another KawaiiCon, but I loved Hawaii. Like I said, if it wasn't Friday and my brain was like Jello, I probably would have remembered Hawaii too. Um, yeah, so, I don't know. I'd love to go back. I have a couple friends there, but I don't know. I love the scene there. I love
Okay.
it. Snorkeling with turtles and yummy, yummy food and luau's and the vibe, the energy there is just really nice. People are so sweet. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, is there anything you want to leave the audience with before you go, or any advice you want to give to anyone who might want to get into acting or voice acting? The floor is yours. If you want to plug or
Sure.
promote anything, go for it.
Uh, well, all the things that I want to plug and promote, I can't because they're still not out yet. But I will say, what was I say? Uh, Follow me on all the socials if you aren't already. The easiest way to find all my social media is just lilaberzins.com. It has all my stuff on there. And in terms of the advice I would give to somebody who wants to be in the acting world, honestly, most important thing that I've learned is take care of your mental health more than anything else, because that is what's going to help you get through the tough times when you're trying to pursue your dreams. Have a good support system, work on mindfulness, find outlets for that will help with anxiety, like things that I've struggled with, like anxiety, perfectionism, and don't let that little voice in your head tell you that you're not good enough, because it's a liar, and you just need to remember that that's just one part of you, and you just have
Hmm.
to tell that part of you, "You're not being helpful right now. I know you're trying to protect me, but you're not being helpful. You need to take a step back. Remember that every day we should be enjoying and appreciating and loving our life, and acting is one of the most incredible ways to be able to do that and harness our raw emotions into imagination and play." So I would say, if this is something you're passionate about, keep going.
Hmm.
Understand that there's gonna be bumps along the road, but be kind to yourself. And understand that we are our biggest supporters, and if we believe in ourselves And we have that support system that is one of the keys to success, because half of the people that make it are the ones that just hold on to the monkey bars the longest and don't fall off. You know what I mean? Like, there are so many people that are like, oh, this is too hard. I've got to do this, this, and the other thing. And then there's the people that are like, okay, this is hard, but this is what I want. And let me figure out how to do this. And if you're struggling, ask for help. I could go on and on about this, but for me, it's always been about having a good headspace, because when you're in a good headspace, the rest will follow. And you feel, if you're in a place where you feel like you're in a, it's like the law of attraction, you know, you're bringing out positive energy. That positive energy will come back to you. You become a magnet for the things you desire. If you're beating yourself up and you're negative and you say, it's never going to happen, I'm never going to do this, then you're creating that negative headspace. So faking it till you make it, you know, really trying to create this space where it's all support in your mind makes a huge difference in the acting world. So that's what I would leave you with more than anything. And just have fun, you know, be kind to people, have fun, make each other laugh. You know, life's too short to be worried all the time. That's the hardest lesson for me, is I was just constantly, I still struggle with worrying, but it's gotten easier with good friends and family helping me.
Okay. See, if I had known you were into law of attraction, we could have talked, because Pat and I.
That's for another time. Yeah,
that's another one. Yeah, because me and Pat, we did like a whole hour of talking about that, and then I just had.
Oh, I didn't know she's. That makes sense, because she has that. She gives off that energy too. Okay, so we gotta chat with her about that too, because there's so much. I mean, I'm a total dork for that stuff. So.
We did a whole hour of that. I just interviewed Jennifer Hale beginning of this week, and we did like almost 2 hours of just talking about that.
Wow.
Just deep diving into that. So like, we definitely got to do this. We definitely have to do this again if you're interested. So
yeah.
All right. With that being said, people, that's the episode of this episode of the Kasanova podcast. A very special thank you to Laila for taking time out. You're very busy. I can't even talk right now. Very busy schedule.
It's Friday. It's a Friday brain is real.
It is so true. Thank you for taking time out of your schedule to come on the show. And you guys can catch this episode and every other episode on every available podcasting outlet. Big thank you to Spotify for sponsoring this show. And with that being said, we will catch you guys on the next one. Peace out and hui ho. If you enjoyed this episode of the podcast or any of the other episodes that we've done so far, if you've enjoyed any of the conversations I've had with guests that I've had on the show, or just general topics that you guys have thrown at me or that I've researched and we've just talked about on the show, then do me a solid. If you're listening on any of the major podcasting outlets, make sure you leave a comment, leave a rating or a review, because it greatly helps out the show. If you're watching the show on YouTube, which airs every single week, then make sure you sub to the channel, youtube.com/@Mekel Kasanova, or just youtube.com/Mekel Kasanova, or even do us an even bigger solid by liking the video and sharing it with someone you think would find some enjoyment out of it. And all that being said, I hope you guys continue to enjoy this podcast and the content we put out here, because hey, we do it with a passion and we do it for you. So with that being said, I catch you guys on the next one. Stay safe, be blessed, and I'll see you around. Peace.